We're recording. All right. Dave Corso is my guest today. He was recruited at about 6 years old to be a super soldier in MK Ultra. And
actually, the Project Talent sub-program.
Okay.
Now, pardon me.
When did this happen? How old are you now, Dave? How old are you now?
I'm 70.
Okay.
Some time ago.
That's some time ago.
They were already.
Yeah.
I'm 65. I volunteered for Vietnam in '64.
I spent 3 tours in Vietnam. But that's beside the point. To get back to Project Talent, I had memories of being with my Uncle Ed in the summertime. And my Uncle Ed was a peddler, my mother's brother. And I asked my mother one time, I said, I have these memories of being with my Uncle Ed in the summertime. She said, you were never with your Uncle Ed. I said, where was I? She said, as you get older, you're going to figure it out. Which tells me now that she knew then what I was being taken off to do. Yeah. Now, Project Talent uses physical, mental, sexual, emotional trauma to take a person's personality and split it into what they call an alter. Now, I don't like reptiles. And to this day, I don't like... The only good reptile is a dead reptile 50 feet away from me. But I woke up one morning a couple years ago here at the house. I was locked inside of a casket with all kinds of reptiles. And I said, those dirty sons of politicians, that's how they got my altars going. Now, I have at least 10 altars, but fortunately mine have all merged back into me. And if an altar takes over, it's like I step aside, I'm still fully conscious, and I talk differently, I speak differently, I sit differently. And I've had people sitting here notice that in me, and then they ask me about it later. I said, that's interesting because I noticed that myself, but I really wasn't aware of what was going on because I step aside and let one side of my other side of my brain take over. Anyways, my training was that of a team leader. And I'm a very early indigo. I've always been in a hurry.
Yeah, me too.
Indigo. Somehow that rings a bell with me. Yeah. Somebody's told me that I'm an indigo too. You want to tell people exactly what that means?
Yeah, indigo. The blue people are the Pleiadians and the Styrians. We are indigos. We are warriors. We are people of action, and that's why we're always in a rush to get shit done. And our leaders always watch my dust. That's indigos. And do not tread on me.
When I was in the one of my first motorcycle clubs, I was called the loner because I'd say, where are we going? Okay, I'll have the beer on the bar for you when you get there. All right, but
does it turn out funny?
I also don't do well in committees, but
that makes 2 of us.
You know, it's not that I want to be the leader. It's just lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. You know.
Exactly. It's get her done attitude. I'm very results oriented, goal directed.
So what did they use you for? How and at what period in time did you go to it? What you went through the Special Forces training?
Well, I went. No, actually, I was in the Marine Corps, but when I was 12 years old, I was done with my training. And then my father was Sicilian. My mother was Celtic. And my father was, shall we say, the mafia was indebted to my father because my father had a big grocery store, he had an appliance store, he had a bakery, he had a Chrysler DeSoto Plymouth agency, he had everything going. And during World War II, the mafia with our godfather down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 60 miles away. My father had many markers that they owed my father. And we had a 540-acre farm up in Parker, Pennsylvania. And my father had raised pork and beef during World War II, so the store would always have fresh meat. And one Saturday evening, Dad said, "It's time you went with me." I said, "Okay." So we went out to the farm, and his limousine pulled up, and there was this individual in a trunk that they pulled out that was bound, and I said, "You got to cut him with knives and throw him over with the pigs." And my dad looked at me and says, "What do you know about that?" I said, "I know." So they handed my dad the shotgun and said, "Well, Tom, it's your turn." So I took the shotgun and I shot the son of a bitch and cut him up and threw him over the pigs. I said, "It's easy, Dad. That's the way you do it." And my father said, "How'd you learn that?" I said, "Remember that? You're Sicilian. You've taught me a lot that you don't know about." All right, when I was 12, though, I ran with a gang of guys that was 8 to 12 years older than me, and I was accepted as an equal from day one. I was never a teenager.
You were never a child, dear. 6 years old.
No, because I was questioning things from the age of 3.
Indigo.
It took me a while to figure that one out.
Is that a trace? I mean, when I was 4 years old, I looked up Santa Claus in the dictionary and told all my cousins.
No, I call bullshit.
You know what fictional means, guys? Do you know what fictional means?
Yeah,
all right. So where did you go when you went into action? Now you've been trained to kill people, right? By the is it CIA Marines? I mean, we all got certain training there in the
well,
camp.
Because I'm with this gang, I had shall we say, I had several brushes with the law. And when I was 18, I got into some really serious trouble. And the judge says, "Well, if you," judge happened to be a friend of my father's. He said, "If you win the service," he said, "I will do away with your prison terms," and he says, "do away with your probation." He says, "But you cannot join the Marine Corps." I said, "But," he said, "that's it." So I went down and enlisted in the Navy, and I, pardon me, sinuses are working good this morning. But I went through radar technician school when I had orders to a carrier. You know, the day we graduated, we were waiting for a bus to take us down to this carrier I was assigned to, and the runner came down and said, "Stephen Corso," he said, "there's a Navy captain wants to see you up in the CO's office." I said, "Describe him." I said, "Better still, let me describe him." And it was my brother's handler, Mason B. Freeman. So anyways, I went up and talked to him, and he said, "Well, you work for me now." He said, "You have 30 minutes to find 9 more. So I went back down to the barracks. I said, "Who wants to go with me for the next 10 years? "What do you mean?" I said, "Be the adventure of a lifetime." So I went back up. I said, here's the orders for the other 9. He called the lieutenant commander and says, "Make it happen." He said, "Your next stop is Quantico." So we went to Quantico, Virginia. By the time we got there from Norfolk, Virginia, they already had our uniforms ready for us. The next day we went down, we went through...
Dave, what kind of uniform? What kind of new uniform?
Marine Corps uniforms.
There you go.
So you had a Marine Corps uniform, but the judge wouldn't allow you to join the Marines? What did they do?
No, this was after I had enlisted in the Navy and gone through radar school.
Okay.
So we got that, and the guy said, "Well, how do they know this?" I said, "I don't know yet." So we went off to basic and advanced infantry school, then we went through Special Forces team training, then we went through SEAL team training, and then we went through, of course, we went through jump school, and one thing and another. 1963, we did our first mission. We were sent to Germany to bring back the families of 2 code clerks from NSA, no such agency, who were going to shall we say, run off to Russia and make a lot of money for themselves. And it was an easy 600-meter shot across the border to take out both guys, and they did that. We went through the doors and looked at the wives and the kids and said, you have a choice. You can go back to the United States now, or you can die here. Of course, they chose to go back to the United States. We went back across the border, and they never saw them again. That was my first mission. 1959 to 1968, but my Marine Corps record shows me being in the Marine Corps from 1961 to 1976. Now, from 68 to 76, I don't have any memories of being on any missions. But that doesn't mean I wasn't. 6 years ago, Duncan O'Fan and I were down in St. Thomas Island. We went down to take care of some business for interest he had down there. And Thursday evening, I'm getting ready to take a shower, and I said, where have we been for the last 2 days? And Dunk looked at me and said, I don't know. I said, smell your hands. I said, my hands smell like gunpowder. I said, we've been someplace. So we got dressed and went down to the bar and said, have we been here for the last 2 days? And they said, nope, you guys have been gone. And we have no idea where we were or what we did, but we went, obviously we were off assassinating somebody.
What about your ID and all that kind of stuff? You're in a foreign country at the time, right?
Yeah, but remember this, when you're down on St. Thomas Island, you're close to Puerto Rico where they have a Stargate.
One in Iraq too, isn't there?
Wait a minute.
Gulf of Aden.
Don't blow past that. Dave, what do you mean by Stargate, and how do you think that correlates to gunpowder on your hands?
Well, put it this way: if we win some, they have Stargates all over the country, all over this world, and they also have them on the moon, and they have them on Mars, and God knows where else they have these things.
Yeah. Explain to people what they do, please.
They transport you.
Yep, you sure do.
In the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. If you've ever seen Stargate on TV, that's the way they work.
Yep.
But anyways, there's an island that's south of St. Thomas. It drew my interest, and I says, what do we know about that island? And Dunk says, I don't know. So earlier on Tuesday afternoon, Dunk and I had walked down to the like a farmer's market where all the locals you could buy anything in the world there. And this very beautiful, tall black woman said, Dave, Dunk, what are you guys doing here? I haven't seen you guys down here in 20 years. And I said, do you know us? She said, oh, I know you guys quite well. You used to come here all the time. And she said, Dunk, what about that little girl with the long red hair used to get down here with you? And I turned to Dunk, and Dunk was getting ready to say something, and all of a sudden I turned around and she's gone. And I said, there's a military establishment on that island someplace, Dunk. He said, I have a memory of being there, but I can't tell you for sure. And that's just part of some of the things that I recall. A small part. But memories come back, and when 2 or 3 of us get together that have been through this, it's amazing how one will start a conversation and the other one will pick it right up and finish a sentence or a statement or whatever. And I noticed that whenever Aaron McCullum was here. And I'm probably going to go...
Wait, what you're saying right here is that and it just kind of, suddenly I just got an echo of 9/11. These buildings being brought down, turned to dust, indicates to me that there was a technology used there that we don't really know about now. And you're talking about bases on the moon, bases on Mars, and that means that somebody, you know, somewhere there has control of what we call UFOs, which I wrote about 40 years ago and called it an Earth ship, able to go anywhere, underwater, around anywhere. And I believe those existed 40 years ago. You're telling me that I wasn't dreaming this, that this is real?
That's very real.
Let me also ask you. What I wrote about 7,000 years ago or so was a passing of the first passing of Planet X. We call it the flood, and with a Noah story. So. Is that why they're building these underground bases? Is Planet X real? Do they know it's coming? They've got the ability to get off the planet so they can go somewhere else and just watch us. But why have we spent so many millions and billions of dollars building these underground bases here?
They think it's going to protect them. Now, Dr. Judy Wood did 2 videos, and I listened to her one night on Coast to Coast AM. And she talked about scalar weapons. Well, they have now proven that in addition to the scalar weapons, what happened was there was thermite bombs that were planted on 5 stories that a foreign country's construction company was up there, and there was no, pardon me, I got to mute my mic for a minute, I got a cough.
Okay.
There was a construction company up there for 5 months on Tower 1. There was no cameras, there was no supervision, there was no one was allowed on the floor where they did construction work. There were explosions in the basements of both Tower 1 and Tower 2. Investigations.
Yes, by the way, William, the janitor there, William Rodriguez, he told me that they rescued people that were injured in the basement by the explosions in the basement before the
building fell. Yes. And why did where was the gold that was in there? And it's amazing when they hit the 26th and 27th floor where the FBI had their field offices, where they had all the paperwork for investigations they were doing on Israeli spying in this country. And then when Building 7 fell down, they announced that 20 minutes before it fell. That's right.
That's right. The BBC did that. And by the way, I had that. Now let me ask you something. And in April 2004, I put Building Number 7 on the cover of my Free American magazine. My Free American magazine was in every Barnes & Noble and Books A Million around the country. I said, why did it fall? I had Larry Silverstein's quote there. And we made the decision. We made the decision. Me and the fire department made the decision to pull that. Well, if you pull that building, then you had explosive planted there before 9/11. If you had explosive planted in that one, what are the odds that this wasn't an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning? You had explosive planted in the other ones, and you brought the buildings down because the Port Authority showed you defective buildings. You insured it for 3 times the worth.
$12 billion. That's how much money he walked away with.
That's right.
Now, when you take a look at that, buildings don't fall in their own footprint unless they have been intentionally destroyed. And those planes that hit buildings 1 and 2 were not 757s and 767s. They were 737s with blanked out windows and a blue insignia on their nose. And there's hundreds of people saw those and brought it up. It was never mentioned during the investigation. Now, where did those people go who were allegedly on those planes? My guess is they're sitting at the bottom of the ocean. But Flight 93 that went down in Pennsylvania landed in Cleveland, Ohio, and the people got off and were taken to a separate building. And cell phones didn't work.
Okay, now the other thing that happened here, let me just, because what I wanted in your opinion is what happened to me. There were two things happening. Now, I had just come out with the True Face of FEMA, which was filmed at the first Homeland Security meeting. This is in April of 2004. I came out with the building on the cover of my April issue, or March issue, building number 7 on the cover. I had in the centerfold a plan for Liberty Villages, which is self-contained, self-sufficient communities based on a family farm idea. And I think they really were scared of that because everything that's happened to the National Animal Identification System. The whole thing is, you know, being self-sufficient. If you can grow your own food and generate your own power, you don't need the government and the banksters for nothing. And I think they're afraid of that. In April of 2004, George Bush, the story broke in New York Times that George Bush had allowed the NSA to tap everybody's phones. The people that tapped the phones were the Israelis. The Israelis are not exactly happy with me. As a matter of fact, I've just got one that says, "I'm a Zionist and you will join me." You're a Jew too. Read the scrolls and it will get you further. My answer was basically, "Fuck you, Ted." And his response,
I agree with you.
He responds, "Fuck you, Clay. I will end your show." Now, this is a guy I just kicked out of the chat room. I kept him up in a private chat. He comes into the chat room saying he's a Rabbi Ted. And you know, I don't believe, and I want your opinion on this. There's two things here I'm trying to get to. One is, I called home on May 20th and asked my son, "Where do you need me to go next, son?" Do you remember the people that are tapping this? They're into AT&T.
What year?
This is 2004.
2004.
May 20th, 2004. I called home and said, "Son, where do you want me to go next?" Now, at this time, I had 3 films out, working on 3 books, almost ready to publish. I had 2 magazines. I had distribution of 20,000 copies all around the country. And my son said, "Dad, go down to 24th Street to McDowell, turn left, go to the wheel shop. It's right there." Okay, son. 2 blocks before I got to McDowell, I was T-boned. I was hit by a woman with no driver's license in a borrowed car with no insurance, drug charges pending, who never went to jail.
And she accelerated towards the red light. She ran to hit him.
And so we were, you know, she hit me hard enough to roll a Road King motorcycle over me 3 times. And I got put in the hospital and kept drugged for 3 months. Halcyon, Haldol, everything else. For 3 broken ribs. And then some people come to me.
And a hemorrhage in the brain.
Oh, a hemorrhage in the brain. Yes, I did have a bump on the head. But I still remember RA18691-506, you know, so I don't think I had too much of a brain injury. But they did keep me unconscious for 3 months. It made my radio shows go down, and I've been under a constant attack. Why? Why are they picking? And I've got this guy in this Rabbi Ted in there saying he's a CIA agent.
The government is good, and you're against your government. Therefore, you're not good, Clay. I'm keeping an eye on you.
Yes, I will. It will happen. I will get my community after you. This is the you know, somebody, another elitist hiding behind a Jew boy.
Hey, dude. You guys need to know you're way outnumbered and way outgunned by people that look just like me and people that don't look like any of us. You're so fucked.
Do you know what the largest standing army in the world is?
Yeah, U.S. hunters.
Exactly. Now, Obama just pushed through his amnesty bill by executive order last Friday. Now, there's a bunch of good old boys around this world, around this country, who are starting to get really pissed.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
I love you, Dave.
And see, if you tell a lie often enough, the sheep are going to believe it.
Exactly.
Now, I want to see the Jews' evidence, the irrefutable evidence that'll stand up in a court of common law that the Germans massacred 6 million Jews during World War II. I want to see it.
Oh, you need to take you need a vacation in Germany where we can put you in prison for 6 years for saying that.
Well, the only Jews that got killed were the poor ones. All the rich ones made it out. The elitists are all about who's got money and who don't. So they did
and
sacrifice some of
any
their own
Jewish
kind.
scholar can prove of Jews that were died in World War II, and the ones that died in concentration camps weren't gassed. They had gas chambers, but they used Zirculon B, which was for lice. Even the German officers went through it. It left a blue stain on the walls. They died from malnutrition or disease. But they don't tell you that Germans, or the Jews in the concentration, had their own brothels, they had their own stores, they had their own script, they had their own theaters.
Well, you know what, Dave? You know what that reminds me of? It's like what's going on now in the news, where they're making everything sound worse than it is, just to stir people up into frustration and anger. They want us pissed off. They love it. That's why I talk about this stuff in humor as best I can. Every once in a while I lose my shit and start screaming about it. But, you know, remaining calm and not letting it piss you off, it's like what they're doing now, framing these Christians. You know, it's the same fucking group that is responsible for 9/11 and everything else on this planet, and they're just trying to get everybody upset. Oh, there's radical Christians now. We already had radical Islamists. It's like everybody on the planet's radicalized now, and so now they have to jail them all. And in 2007, they already passed a law. I mean, it's already standing there saying that radicalization, anti-government rhetoric is a threat to the nation, and such people guilty of it belong in jail. And I'm guilty of it. And, you know, they call me a radical because what? I want to create, in Clay and I, a sovereign zone where these guys have no power over what we eat.
They've killed sovereign citizens for being sovereign citizens.
And we will be armed and protecting our property. This is going to be real property people are purchasing to have title to. And they will not invade our privacy without our permission. And they will never come on our lands armed nor outnumbering us. And I dare them to try and snipe us from the perimeter, because I got guys that can out-snipe any of theirs. And, you know, I mean, seriously, Dave, I mean, it's time for everybody to grow up and realize how many Americans are militarily trained after all these wars. These idiots prepared us to be their worst enemy.
That's why they sprayed us with Agent Orange in Vietnam. That's why they used depleted uranium. Giving depleted uranium to troops, where they're killing their own soldiers because they don't want trained, combat-hardened veterans coming back to this country seeing what a communist pigpen has become, in my opinion. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you. And plus that, they have said that any Vietnam veteran is an automatic terrorist.
That's right. And they've also attacked Christian identity because they're telling them, hey, we are the Israelites. We came across the Caucasus Mountains. We became called Caucasian. You know, 10,000 years ago we might have been Palladians, but you know we're the Israelites. We're the people the Bible talked about. We did what the Bible talked to us about, and the Bible warned us about this whole New World Order. You know, money changers and the temple bullshit that's going on.
Adam was a white man. Moses was a white man, so white it scared his parents. He was not these tawny, brown-skinned Khazar Babylonians pretending to be white human Hebrews. They're not. They stole a religion, but they didn't steal nothing but our land and our identity. But we're taking it back. The father of our species and our elders are all here to ensure that this planet goes back into our hands, and these invaders are removed for their safety.
And by the way, folks, this CIA agent, this Rabbi Ted that we keep kicking out of the room, he's in a private chat with me, and he's telling me, I will get my community after. Listen, you will become a Zionist, or I will shut down this show. Folks, this is the kind of threats that I'm getting.
Wait a minute. I am a Zionist, but I am a Zionist in the sense of having white people live back in their land, not you.